Yo, what's up? So, I'm doing a vlog type bullshit thing with a webcam, except not my good webcam because it's broken and I'm too lazy to fix it. So I'm using my old PlayStation Eye camera. That's why it's 4.3 because top quality product. It's not really meant for this purpose anyway, but um I had the thought. I thought that I would talk about it a little bit. Um, so I watched Anthony Fantano's review of the recent, what is it, Superorganism release, and he mentioned that they are a group that didn't even meet before having their first big hit. And he pointed out that that's the age that we live in now, where you are collaborating with people over the internet, leading to a true globalization of even talent. And that's something that, well, globalization is something that is brought up a lot. I want to say even like Republicans talk about it. Not to get political, but this almost fear. I'm just real professional today, aren't I? This fear of globalization. Fucking what's his face? Alex Jones really hates the idea of globalization, I guess. He's talking about the globalist agenda. And those damn globalists are trying to poison the water, control our brain. You gotta take my fluoride drugs. My drugs that get rid of fluoride. Take a buy of a $29.99 per bottle. Alex Jones talks about fearing globalization, so I'm assuming that's a thing that conservatives don't like. Tea is good. So the thing is, we're kind of moving to that. But what's more interesting to me is not the idea of globalization in and of itself, but rather the idea of decentralization. Because when you think about it, how do musicians, for the most part now, meet each other? A lot of the time, and I'm not saying like how does Katy Perry hook up with Kanye West? How does that happen? It's because they're celebrities, and that just, they're shoved. Either it's through a well orchestrated social media escapade or whatever, but all of that is orchestrated by their labels, their managers, their agents, even like actors. They have someone telling them and like 8 other people or 20 other people, or in the case of a label, hundreds of other people, what to do all the time. And the interactions between them are overseen by these same people, by labels, by agents, by managers, whoever. So we're seeing steps away from that. And what I think is interesting about that is that we're seeing that happen. I like that whenever I'm moving my arm, it's shaking the camera, so I'm sure that you're going to get motion sickness. So what I'm seeing as well, not just in the creative world, but in the tech world, is a move towards decentralization, towards getting away from these monolith institutions one of the most prevalent ones in recent days has been hashtag delete Facebook. People en masse deleting Facebook. Now, how many of those people are deactivating their accounts and will go back to them in like a month or whatever, or a week? Countless, I'm sure. But what is important is not necessarily that people are going to go back on it, but the fact that they had the inclination to abandon Facebook altogether in the first place. That is what intrigues me, because there is a lot of push, and it's been happening since sort of the boom, the startup boom, for instead of there being a Google or a Microsoft that provides everything you need for one. Let me move that. Who provides everything that you need for everything, rather. Google is the biggest perpetrator of this concept. Google started out and they were just the search engine. Everyone knows that. And I want to say that the next really big jump that they made was with email. I could be wrong. But basic premise here, Google started out and they were just search. And over time, they built up email. They built up Google Talk or whatever. They made Google Video. They bought YouTube. They made Google Plus. They made Google Docs. They made Google Sheets. They made the whole Google Apps thing. They made G Suite. Google, they made Android. Well, they basically own the Android open source project. I want to say Android existed before Google got into it, but Google basically put all of their money behind that. But point being, Google has an ecosystem far beyond anything else that can only really be compared to by the likes of Apple and Microsoft. Microsoft, not quite the same way in all cases. Sort of. Depending. Apple, similarly. So you also have Microsoft. Microsoft has their own operating system that owns something like 80% of the fucking computer world, basically. Of desktop computers, obviously. Linux owns the server space, pretty much. Linux and BSD. But what I'm talking about is the desktop space, the personal consumer market, because that's what matters here. Microsoft owns all that shit. Microsoft also has a veritable monopoly on the enterprise Office product space, as in Microsoft Office. Like, there are some, but not many, companies that use things other than Outlook for their mail and Exchange for their mail, but most of them use Outlook and Exchange. They use Microsoft Office for all of their intra-office everything. They use Word, they use Excel, they do PowerPoint presentations. I've seen some places use like Prezi or whatever, but like Word is the de facto. You don't see anybody using Google Docs in an enterprise environment. You don't see anybody using Google Sheets in an enterprise environment. They are using Excel. But the thing with that, and it's the same, like, I mean, compared to Apple has Mac OS, Apple has the iPhone, has iOS. Apple has iWork. I think that's what it's called. They have presentation software that I can't even remember the name of because no one fucking uses it. The only people that use Apple's presentation software, I am fairly convinced, is Apple. they use they use I'm straight up drawing a blank on what the fuck it's called. Keynote. They use Keynote for like WWDC and the big announcements every year. I don't think any fucking body else does. And I would be real surprised if anybody other than Apple on a regular basis used their fucking Word replacement. And they have a third one. Is it an Excel replacement? I don't know. Nobody fucking uses it. Nobody. But what I'm getting at now, and it's not even really now, it's been an ongoing thing. There are smaller companies coming in that are seeing that the one major thing that happens with these other large companies is they get slow or they get complacent. Microsoft, for a very long time, got extremely complacent. And I think that Microsoft has seen what I am seeing, what many have been seeing for a long time, and that is that people are getting bored. People are getting tired of the same old problems still being prevalent in the software that they use every day. They want something new and interesting, and something that is agile, and something that presents new solutions to old problems that we've had solutions for a long time, but they haven't necessarily been the best possible solutions. Google Docs and Sheets started out that way in some aspects, because one of the major flaws in Office, and is still a problem, but to a lesser extent now because they've had to catch up with Google Docs and Sheets. Mainly Sheets. Sheets is the big one for this. The main thing that Google Docs has, that they innovated with, was collaboration. Having multiple people able to view and even edit a sheet in real time was something that was utterly impossible in older versions of Office, and is still difficult. Like, I think the web versions of Office enable it pretty easily, but if you were using a desktop app, it is hard to understand. And a lot of it is because they've had to carry over this same design philosophy since 2007, pretty much. And there's a ton of compatibility code that is left behind that they can't get rid of, and it probably tacking new features on there is only going to make what is already a bloated and slow and not that great application, mainly referring to Excel, it's only going to make it worse. And meanwhile, Google Sheets is fast, and it enables this collaborative functionality and very simple and easy sharing, where you can just hit share, you get a link, you throw it out there. And now they've got all this machine learning stuff where you can like get data analytics basically by typing in a plain text query. I say plain text, I mean natural language query. And that's all stuff that Microsoft is still trying to figure out. Microsoft is still trying to figure out how to make decent help documents, considering I want to say, the more Office 2013 has that, or Office 2016 rather. I think Office 2016 was the one that added the "Ask Me What You Want to Do" bar at the top, which is basically a direct clone of Apple's generic help system that is available in most applications, if not all applications on macOS, where you just type into the help box the menu item you're trying to find, and it brings you to that menu item, highlights it, points a big arrow at it, and says, "Here it is, you stupid fuck." That is something that Microsoft's trying to figure out now. And again, it just comes back to Microsoft could have implemented that years ago, very quickly and easily, if it wasn't for the fact that they are so slow. It is building off of years and years and years old code, and they have to keep compatibility with that old shit. And what I'm getting at, what I keep saying I'm getting at, is that there is a movement of these Silicon Valley wannabe startups that, and I say wannabe, but it's really, they're doing a pretty damn good job, of companies that are coming in and replicating the functionality of these decades old bits of software or services, and they're doing a better job at it, and they're advancing more quickly because they're smaller, because they don't have years and years and years of bullshit that they have to keep compatibility with, because they're building new products. And they're these small, very specialized companies that are capable of doing these things better than a massive company ever could dream of doing it, because they have that legacy that they have to keep up with. The spreadsheet example works perfectly because there are multiple spreadsheet companies and bookkeeping companies that are springing up that are doing this incredibly effectively. And I think that combined with the rise of cryptocurrencies really goes to show that I think people are looking for something different. They don't want these gigantic, monolithic internet companies, or just tech companies in general, that are capable of being a jack of all trades. They don't want a jack of all trades anymore. At least it's getting to be that way, because they're starting to realize that whenever you deal with a company that is specialized, you deal with a company that can move quickly. They have their entire workforce dedicated to this product, to this idea. They put their mission statement is doing one thing well. And that used to be what Google was. That used to be kind of what Microsoft was, even. That used to be sort of what Apple was. Every one of those big companies, they started out doing one thing really well, and that's how they got big. And then they branched out, and now they've slowed down, and they've become disappointing. Whenever Google announced the Pixel 2, they kind of addressed that fact by pointing out that they don't have any more ideas on how to make phones better. You know, and it's the same kind of thing. Look at macOS. macOS High Sierra. What new features did it have other than breaking a lot of fucking MacBooks and other Apple devices? Not, breaking them, but a lot of people had really terrible experiences with High Sierra. iOS 11 added some things, but it's a shitty fucking operating system. It broke so much. The first few beta releases of it were terrible. And I don't mean from the regular perspective of it's buggy, because of course it's buggy. They were beta releases. But the so-called king of UX, the company that basically brought the concept of UX into the mainstream, forgot how to make good UI, how to do UX properly with those first few releases. And I still don't think that iOS 11 is very good. whenever it comes to a lot of what it does. I think that the whole notification system is terrible. The way that the operating system basically pauses whenever you slide out Control Center or the Notification Center. Control Center itself looks like this pieced together mess of blocks. It looks like shit. And it's just weird. And notifications are confusing because you don't know when you're able to do an action on a notification and when you don't know, and I'm getting way off track. Point being, if Apple was the iPhone company and they weren't simultaneously trying to work on iPhones and Mac OS and Apple Watch and Apple TV and iWorks for some reason and GarageBand, which is another fucking whole mess. All of this shit, if they weren't trying to do that, if Google wasn't trying to do search and mail and IM and video chat and another IM app and machine learning and web browsing and web standards and all this other shit, and if Microsoft wasn't trying to do all of that too, they would probably be better companies. And their products, the ones that they chose to keep around, would probably be far, far superior to what they are now. And even to their competition. Because if you have several $billion to shove behind one product, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than splitting up even twice that much money into 20 different products. And going back to what I was saying, I think that with the rise of these smaller niche companies that are doing one particular thing really well, like Proton Mail, or I've got Edison Mail, I think is the name of it on my phone. Companies like okay, very good example here. Google Drive markets itself as a backup service. Apple's iCloud markets itself as a backup service that you can keep your files on there. I pay, I think, $2, maybe $1 a month or something like that for iCloud storage for like 50 gigs of it to keep my pictures backed up. Now, for one, that was a terrible idea on my part, but I'm lazy and stupid. But I also pay $5 a month for infinite backup storage through Backblaze. Because they do one thing, and that is backup. They do cloud storage. Now, I think they also have like a sort of like an Amazon what the hell is it called? Something 3. They have Amazon style cloud storage services that you can pay for. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's still just cloud storage. They're still just running massive fucking data centers. And that's all they do. They don't have a search engine. They don't have a mail service. They don't do any of that. They do one thing. Storage. They do cloud storage. And look at the value I get out of that. $5 and I have 3 terabytes of shit stored with them. And if my drive dies, like if tomorrow I come down here, my computer won't boot, all I have to do is go on their website on my phone or whatever and go send me a hard drive. They will mail me a hard drive, and if I want to, I can plug that hard drive into my computer and it will boot because I have set it that way. I have set my computer to back up everything. Well, it probably won't have like the boot sector on it, but point being, I can plug it in, fucking set the boot flag on there, and it will probably boot up. If my video drive dies, tomorrow, I can request another drive from them. They will mail me a drive. I can pop it in. All my shit will be there. And furthermore, if say I had a NAS and like only some of my files were dead or something like that, but I still want the drive just so I don't have to wait to download all of it, they'll send me the drive. I can get the data off of it and then send it back. I don't have to pay for the drive. It's great. This is not an ad for Backblaze, even though that is one company I would sell out to. There are actually a lot of companies that I like because they do the one thing. That's what I like. But compare that to Google Drive. With Google Drive, yes, you have all your photos and shit backed up. But if your computer blows up, and sure, you've got all your documents, but you gotta re-download all of them, and they're all just kind of stored in random folders. They're not in the folder structure that you had before. And you don't have any other options. And if you want more storage, say you are a video person like me, and you have 700 gigs of raw video footage that you have backed up in Google Drive, you're probably paying at least like $20 a month. I bet. Maybe not that much. But still, it's more than $5 a month. And I only pay $5 a month. I get unlimited storage. Even if you go with somebody like Carbonite, which I think is like $10 a month, you get the same thing. And all they do, as far as I'm aware, at least, I don't use Carbonite, obviously. All they do is backup and cloud storage. And I can download, you can do this in Carbonite, you can do it on Backblaze, you can do it on pretty much any backup service worth its salt. You just download the files that you need. Same way as you can with Google Drive. Same way as you can with iCloud. It's just that these companies only do these things, and they're a hell of a lot cheaper, and they have more options, and they're just an overall better service, in my opinion. But, going back to what society thinks, major thing that I see is the prevalence of cryptocurrency and the interest in cryptocurrency. The fact that it is a decentralized thing is what most attracts people, I think. And people, I think there is a societal, maybe not a big one, but a societal pull in the direction of getting rid of the monoliths, getting rid of the big businesses, and trying to support smaller, more focused companies that are better at what they do, because that's all they do, even if it comes at a premium. Look at the prevalence of, going back to the creator space, Patreon and Ko-fi. These companies provide viewers, consumers, with ways of directly supporting the people that they love. And now direct support has always existed in one form or another. You got people that have worked in public radio that do fundraisers every year. You've got people like Alex Jones who get money from all of his merchandise sales. That's always existed. Even YouTubers have done merchandise sales. They've done donations through PayPal. But with the advent of Patreon and Ko-fi, you've broken down the barriers to doing these things to the point that anybody can set up a Patreon, anybody can set up a Ko-fi, and anybody on the other end, anybody who is watching these people, can give money to them. Look at crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a perfect example of this. That people see something that they want, they see a company that they like, they see people that they want to support, and they throw their money at it. And I guarantee you that if you walked up to 100 different people on the street and said, hey, Microsoft would really like $10 of your money. Can they have it? If you ask that to 100 different people, they would go, why the fuck would I do that? Because everyone fucking hates Microsoft. And I bet a lot of people fucking hate Google too. Now, Apple is a weird thing, but you know what? Even a lot of Apple fans don't like Apple as a company. They like their products. They like the shit that they make, not what they actually are and what they represent in all ways. I'm definitely in that boat. I fucking hate Apple as a company most of the time, but I do like my iPhone. I do see value in the iPad. And every day of my life, I wish that I could convince myself to buy a MacBook Pro, even though it's ridiculously overpriced, doesn't have any real features that I would be able to make use of that I can't already do with my 8-year-old laptop or my gaming machine. But you know what? I like their products. But Tim Cook, I would say he can suck a dick, but he's homosexual, so, you know, it's not really an insult at that point, is it? So, and I'm not going to say he should get cancer because, Steve Jobs. Anyway, I'm not funny. Point is, people hate big companies, but they see startup culture and they go, startup culture, small business. And there's definitely, I think, in American culture in general, a sort of adoration. Well, there is. The underdog thing. The adoration of the small business comes from the wanting to support the underdog. And I think that is something that is burned deep into our cultural DNA. And now that it's become easier than ever to have these smaller companies that can do really well and integrate this globalization concept into what they do with the power of, say, decentralization through the technology of the blockchain, through just collaborative music efforts, through collaborative visual efforts. One of the most interesting things that I've seen is a move for collaborative online video editing platforms, or at least video production platforms. That's what Vimeo is pushing right now, is that they allow for collaboration between people online on video editing, or on video production. There was something that I saw in Product Hunt a while back that was literally collaborative video editing. Creative Cloud, Adobe's Creative Cloud product, is built on this idea of being able to collaborate over the internet with people through their Creative Cloud storage. I think people see these things and they like that somebody's challenging the big dogs at their own games. And the fact of the matter is the big dogs are spread too thin and they can't do anything about it. Microsoft, as much as I hate most of what they do, Microsoft is probably the only one even making any strides in terms of going against that. Mainly in that Windows 10 becoming a service, them completely changing their business model with Windows, their efforts at pouring money into open source, into Linux, open sourcing Visual Studio Code, all that stuff. Microsoft is trying, but I don't think they're necessarily going to go fast enough. I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. What's most interesting to me with all this is probably the blockchain itself, the technology behind that. because what a lot of people don't realize with cryptocurrencies is that there is an idea behind these cryptocurrencies. They're not just supposed to be highly volatile stocks that you buy into and hope that they fly up the next day so that you can sell real quick, and then you wait for it to crash again and then you buy real quick. It's not supposed to be super high speed stock trading for the average man. It's not supposed to be that. Bitcoin was founded with the concept of an online marketplace, of creating an infinite online marketplace that to change currency at its very core, to say that no one owns currency, that it's a modern day almost it's not bartering, but it's a modern day, like almost a fantasy gold thing where the money isn't regulated, it's just there and it gets value from the people that trade it. And is how it works. But that's what that was. Ethereum is very far removed from how Bitcoin works, because the money aspect of it is a side effect of what it's really created to be, which is almost like a folding at home style distributed computing platform, where it's supposed to be that you spend Ethereum to, so if I understand it right, you spend Ethereum and give it to people who do distributed computing stuff for you, and the blocks that they are computing are your distributed computing jobs, that kind of thing. And then they get money and then promptly sell it on Polynex or whatever. But that's what that's supposed to be. That's why we have we have so many of these different cryptocurrencies, because many of them have that purpose built behind them. That they are supposed to have a secondary goal of more or less being distributed computing platforms. So it's obvious that there is a large group of people, maybe in the millions worldwide, which is still a lot of people. It's not massive, but a large group of people who are pushing for this decentralization, who are pushing for the downfall of individual centralized economies. And I think that's going to be very important soon. I think it's already important, but I think it's going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on, because as more of these companies come up, as more things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies rely on technologies like the blockchain to further unite people, I think that it's going to break down barriers faster than they can be built. And while we have things like our government's attempts at censoring the internet, we have things like other countries just straight up turning off the internet for some people, or whatnot, trying to control the flow of information. I don't think it's going to work, because there's too much of a push from a small but very strong group of people who control a lot of things. I think as that goes on, we're going to see a wide change in the internet landscape and the world landscape. So, yep. Well, I hope I didn't ramble too much. I know I did. I'm just moving this bottle around on my desk. Doesn't that sound great? Talk for like 40 minutes, so that's fun. If you enjoyed listening to me talk about horse shit, subscribe. Call to action. Yep. I guess I can upload this on Twitch too. I don't know. Can I? What would I call it? Talk show? I could call it talk show. Or IRL. I don't know. In any case, bye!